Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and today we are kicking off an exciting monthly series exploring the 10 Commandments and how they speak to our lives right here, right now. Joining us is Ed Van Buskirk, an author, speaker, and founder of If You Love Me, a nonprofit dedicated to restoring the timeless wisdom of the 10 Commandments in our daily lives. And he's here to show us why these commandments, written by God's own hand, aren't just rules, but a roadmap to a life of love and purpose. Wow. Welcome back, Ed. It's good to have you.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Yes.
Are you hearing me fine?
So, loud and clear, Ed. So would you say that most people's perception of the 10 Commandments are a little upside down? And why is that?
Well, my experience is that people see the commandments as a list of negative rules imposed on us by a demanding God. And as I've gone through my journey of the commandments, I have discovered that they are completely the opposite of just being imposed on us. And a lot of people see the commandments as being restrictive, limiting us in our choices. Well, we have free choice, so we're not limited in our choices, but they guide us to choose what is good for us. And they give us the opportunity to experience, instead of the hardship and the heartache of disobeying the commandments, because when we disobey the commandments, we break our relationship, we damage our relationships with one another. When we live the commandments, we build relationship and we experience the joy. And so instead of viewing these commandments as a list of rules imposed on us by a demanding God, it is so refreshing to experience the commandments in a new light and to see how the commandments are given to us by a loving God, only because he wants what's best for us. And he knows, just like a loving parent, a loving parent knows what's better for the child. You eat the proper balanced diet, you don't run out in the street, you get to bed on a reasonable time. We look at this and think, well, that's a loving parent, and that the child is going to be better off if they listen to their loving parent. Well, we have a loving Father, and as he gives us these rules for life, he's giving them to us because he knows what's best for us. And sometimes we think, oh, well, I don't want to be imposed by those rules, just like a child does. They don't want to be, to be denied their candy and their TV time when it's time for bed. So we need to look at these commandments and see how liberating they are, how they free us from the baggage and the heartache that we have to endure when we break the commandments, when we sin and carry that around. And one of the merciful things of our loving God is whenever we do break a commandment, we're always, we always have the sacrament of reconciliation, the grace and the mercy of God to receive us back and to start anew, just like a loving parent. Yeah, you messed up, kid. You're going to have to suffer some consequences in terms of temporal world, but we love you, and let's work to do better next time.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's interesting is that, like, every Catholic knows about the 10 Commandments, and I feel like after basic elementary catechism, they almost take kind of a back seat towards everything else. But these are very important. So how do we recognize this as important?
Well, they're relevant every day. That's one of the other things that people perceive the commandments as being for an ancient civilization, not really relevant in our today's world. And we're more wise. We have a modern set of rules that are better for us now. And that is so far from the truth. They're relevant every day. When we drive on the roads, how are we treating the other drivers? When we are in a business meeting, how are we treating our clients and our other employees that we're working with? Are we living these commandments? And when we live them well, relationships go well. Business world in particular, how many businesses survive without relationships, and how many of them survive with their relationships with their employees and their clients and their vendors go bad? And so these commandments are relevant every day, but a lot of people see them as being irrelevant. And why this is, we don't, as individuals, as a culture, we think we live in a free world, and we do, but we're free to make either good choices or bad choices. And this is God's way of giving us a good set, an easy set of guidelines, of rules to follow so that we can live the good life instead of that we have to be looking over our shoulder and regretting some of those relationships that we've damaged along the way.
Yeah, I like how you compare the commandments to the rules of the road for driving, because I mean, we even talk about on this show, we're all on that highway towards holiness, or highway towards heaven. So how would you say the Ten Commandments protect what's holy and sacred in our lives, and why do you call them like a call to greatness?
Well, I'm going to go back to the rules of the road. You know, most everybody watching and listening today will be out driving at some point today, and there's rules of the road, and people don't begrudge the rules of the road. The rules of the road were given to us by those who created the roads. They have the authority, the responsibility to give us those rules and to enforce those rules. And it's only because we as a group of people embrace the same set of rules of the road that we can use the roads for the purpose for which they're created and have the freedom to go out and drive on the roads instead of I'm not going out on there. Half the people drive on the other side of the yellow line. Most people don't stop for stoplights. This would be chaos, and it would also restrict us from actually using the roads for what their purpose is. And so being able to take these rules given to us by our creator, who has the authority and the responsibility to give us them, and to see them as for us to see them as giving us the opportunity to live freely, knowing that others will live the commandments well. And right now in our culture, there's a lot of groups, a lot of individuals that have chosen to not follow the rules, and it's causing a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos, a lot of division. And when we restore these commandments, if we get to where we don't look at these commandments as something negative, but see them for the richness and the joy and the happiness that they offer us, and we start to embrace them individually and in our communities and in our cities and in our state and our nation, these rules are for the whole world, and we can live a much happier, joy-filled life. Literally the wars of the world, you can boil them down into what commandments were broken. Somebody wanted something that somebody else had and started taking it forcefully, and lives are at stake. And then you look at that into our individual lives, the division in our families, in our relationships with people at work. And we look at those relationships that have gone sour. We can boil that down and say, okay, where did somebody break the relationship, break a commandment, and break the relationship? We need to get back to these wonderful gifts from our Creator, so that we can have that harmony that we all want, and makes life so much easier.
Well, definitely. I know in June we're going to be coming up with for the month that's always labeled, has been labeled for a little bit, Pride Month. And I know a lot of people out there are going to be working in offices or environments that are going to be, it's just going to be, there's those rainbow flags all over the place. So how does someone out there that's, Catholic, Christian, that they want to live out the faith, they want to live out the Ten Commandments, but are a little nervous about going into the workplace to share some of this?
Well, we need to make sure that we understand how the commandments are broken into two different groups: love of God and the first three commandments. And Jesus tells us, the two greatest commandments: first, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul; and the second, love your neighbor as yourself. The first three commandments are all about that first greatest commandment, and the second is about love of neighbor, love of one another, in groups, commandments 4 through 10. And as we learn to embrace those, and we get them top of mind so that we can live them in our daily lives, how we treat that individual who looks at the world from a pride point of view, and not get caught up in that. Realize that to follow these commandments, to trust God, we really do need to embrace humility. Pride is The root of all sin is pride, and here we have an entire segment of society have embraced pride so much that that's what they pronounce as being their claim to fame, and let's be proud of these things. Now, there's two kinds of pride. There's a healthy pride, and then there's an unhealthy pride. And when we put an object or an agenda above the one true God, and that's the first commandment. You shall not have any strange gods before us. As we put the one true God first, and we look at the commandments and we see, okay, I don't want to set these aside because I have too much pride. But when we have humility, we can embrace these commandments and go, I don't know what's best. And if you look at an entire circle and think of this is all the knowledge in the world in this circle here, how much of it do I really know? It's very, very little. But if we realize that everything in the circle is created and made possible by God, and I'm going to trust Him, and be able to say to that individual who is pronouncing Pride Month and promoting Pride Month is in kindness and in love, and say, how does your Creator want life to be for each of us? He wants the fullness of life, and it's in the design that He created us as man and woman that we can embrace and live the fullness of life. He wants what's best for us. Let's set aside the pride and let's accept the Creator who loves us.
Yeah, amen. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Ed, for joining us. For those out there wanting more of Ed, and he does a really incredible breakdown of the 10 Commandments, here's a couple websites. We'll have them in the show notes for you, but it's godsrecipe.org and and that's the letter U, ifyouloveme.org. Thank you once again, Ed, and that is it for Morning Joy, where truth matters. Now, a couple notes real quick. For those listening in on the radio right now, we encourage and invite you to head on over to any of the social medias out there. We're streaming live to all of them, whether it's X, YouTube, Instagram, even TikTok. We invite you, just search Morning Joy Radio or GRN online, because we are about to transition on over to our after show clubhouse, because there's literally limited time that we can talk, and we have so much more to say. For those that are on social media right now, hang tight. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you right here on Morning Joy, where truth matters. Until then, make it a joyful day. We'll see.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.